This video is brought to you by Baseus. Today we're checking out the Baseus Bowie 30 Max, and today I'll be scoring and ranking them against 13 headphones in 10 categories. The retail price here is $79 US. Now here's the current leaderboard with the Soundcore Space One in the first spot. The top 5 there is incredibly close. I did have the Soundcore Space One Pro in this ranking, but I took them out because I'm trying to keep most of these headphones at $100 US or below. I did keep the Soundcore Space Q45 in because on sale, they do go below $100 US. Now yes, this video is sponsored, but Baseus had no influence on what I'm saying in this review. Like all my reviews, I score and rank the headphones, lay out the pros and cons, and let you decide for yourself if they're worth it for you. And these headphones are solid, but they do have some drawbacks that need to be pointed out. You can also customize the scoring with my free spreadsheet linked below, but I'll talk about that later. Now let's get into category 1, build quality and fit. Now these are the heaviest headphones on this ranking, weighing in at 320 grams. But a heavy headphone doesn't necessarily mean they'll be uncomfortable, because I had them on for over 3 hours with no issues. The ear cups are quite spacious enough, a little bit on the shallow side, but the overall width is nice even for my pretty large ears. So my ears don't make too much contact on the inside of the ear cup. There could be more head cushioning here, but it's enough so I don't get discomfort on the top of my head. The ear cups are pretty high quality, a little bit on the firmer side, but still very comfortable. Not very breathable though, so they do get slightly warm. It is around 28 degrees here, 82 Fahrenheit at the moment. Now that headband adjustment is a little bit on the loose side. It still locks in place well enough, or if you're folding them, you could lose that position quite easily. Now the overall build quality feels pretty solid. The joint used here is quite smooth, and there's no squeaking or cracking as you change the position of the headphones and the ear cups. The hard plastics used do feel a little bit on the cheap side relative to the price, but the only real issue here is a very light clamping force. So even for my giant head, it's a little bit on the loose side. So if I shake my head slightly or lean forward, the headphones move out of place. So if you have a smaller head or even a normal sized head, keep that in mind. That's a pretty poor design choice because you're better off having a tighter clamping force that you can loosen on like some books or a box or something like that. If it's loose, then you can't really tighten it. You could use like elastic bands or things like that, but not what you want to do. Still for me, this is fine for like sitting down at a desk, commuting, walking, running with these, or exercising. I wouldn't recommend though. So with that, they're getting a score of 7.5 out of 10. It's only the light clamping force holding that score down slightly. Still, it's a pretty unique design. Most of the headphones on my ranking all kind of look the same except for the Soundcore headphones. But another thing to keep in mind is that you don't get a hard case or even a soft case included, which at this price, you really do expect to see. But now category 2 is battery life. So you get 65 hours with noise cancelling off and 50 hours with noise cancelling on, and that's at 70% volume, which is pretty decent. They also advertise 34 hours with noise cancelling on and spatial audio on, and 30 hours with head tracking on as well. A nice little extra to include there. Most brands don't even bother with this. Now when it comes to fast charge, you can charge the headphones for 10 minutes and you're gonna get 14 hours of playback, but that's usually with noise cancelling off. Still, it is the fastest on this ranking. So solid stuff, they're getting a score of 9 out of 10. And if you want to compare all the specs for all the headphones, that's also in the spreadsheet linked below. Now onto category 3, controls. So you're actually getting an on and off switch on the right ear cup to turn the headphones on and off. A bit retro, but I like it. It's actually a lot quicker than having to hold down on a button for 3 seconds like most headphones. And you do get simple physical buttons on the right ear cup, which has your play, pause, and volume up and down, which will double up as track forward and back. And those 3 buttons are connected, and the play pause button is slightly raised. It still took me a bit of time to get used to what button I was actually pressing. But that play pause button can also be customized and used as a double and triple tap. So you can add in voice assistant, low latency mode, or the spatial audio toggle. I would have liked to see the option to do a quick EQ customization because these have a bass boost mode. So having like a quick bass boost you could change right on the ear cup would have been nice. But the left ear cup has a 1 button, which would be for ambient switching. So a single press will cycle between noise cancelling on, transparency on, and noise cancelling off. A long hold will cycle just between noise cancelling and transparency. That's as long as you originally had it set to noise cancelling though. So you're not getting true ambient control switching here, allowing you to only switch between noise cancelling and transparency using that button. Still, the total score here is an 8 out of 10. You get everything you need. You aren't getting wearing detection, but the only headphone that has that is the Soundcore Space One. Now, category 4 is connectivity. So you get Bluetooth 5.4 here, SBC, AAC, and LDAC high-res. But you do get multi-point connection here, so you can have 2 devices connected to the headphones at the same time. And you're also getting multi-point takeover. So this means you don't have to pause playback on one device before you play it on the other device for that audio to kick in. It's automatically going to switch over for you. Only takes about 2 to 3 seconds to do so. And you also get a low latency gaming mode here. And in my test with the low latency mode off, the gaming latency was pretty fine on my iPhone 15 Pro, even with quicker reaction games like shooters. When I chucked the low latency mode on, the latency was brought down even more, so it's more suitable for games like shooters. But even with the low latency mode off, watching videos is completely fine. But of course, you can just plug in via the auxiliary cable and it's going to give you no latency. And you're also able to listen wired with the headphones powered on or powered off. So if you have them powered on, you can still use noise cancelling, your transparency mode, and you still retain the stock tuning that you get with the Bluetooth connection. Where if you use them powered off, the sound does become quite flat. And all the headphones on this ranking, excluding Edify and Soundcore, don't allow you to use them wired with the headphones powered on. So they all sound kind of trash with the headphones plugged in. And you can't use noise cancelling or the transparency mode. So overall score here is a 10 out of 10. These are actually the only headphone to have everything here: high-res audio, a low latency mode, and multi-point takeover. Good stuff. Now, category 5 is call quality, and I run through 3 tests here: a quiet room, simulation crowd noise, and a simulation windy city with construction noise. Total score is the average of all 3 tests. First of all, you can't mute your microphone using the controls on the headphone, and you also can't switch between noise cancelling and transparency when you're on a phone call. By default, it's going to turn noise cancelling off, and you can't change it after that. But they're getting a total score of 7.5 out of 10. They perform pretty well in all the tests, so I'm going to leave you some samples here compared to the One More Sonoflow Pro, which are decent in the quiet room and crowd noise test. They're pretty bad with the windy city test though, so I'm also chucking in the Soundcore Space Q45, which are the best when it comes to the windy city test. Alright, here's the call quality of the One More Sonoflow Pro in a quiet room. Alright, here is the call quality of the Baseus M30 Max in a quiet room. Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Space Q45 in a quiet room. Alright, now we're going to see how the microphones block out some simulation crowd noise. Alright, here is the One More Sonoflow with some simulation crowd noise. Alright, here's the Baseus M30 Max with some simulation crowd noise. Alright, here is the Soundcore Space Q45 with some simulation crowd noise. Alright, now I have some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. Alright, here's the call quality of the One More Sonoflow Pro with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation noise. Alright, here's the Baseus M30 Max with some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation noise. Alright, here's the Soundcore Space Q45 with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation noise. Alright, category 6 is app customization and extra features. So I'll touch on all the main features and go into a bit more detail later. And you can get the Baseus app on iOS or Android. They do ask for a login, but you can just skip this and use the guest mode. So the homepage will have the battery life of your headphones. You also have your spatial audio toggle with head tracking. Ambient sound has your noise cancelling and transparency options, and you can customize a noise cancelling strength. EQ modes will have 5 EQ presets, which are all pretty decent, as well as an 8-band EQ, which isn't so great. I'll run through that later. Gesture settings has your control customization I ran through before. That location tab at the bottom of the page will allow you to locate your headphones based on location, but you do need to log in to use this. And that settings tab at the bottom right will have your firmware updates as well as a factory reset option. So that's everything. They're getting a score of 8 out of 10. You get the basics here as well as spatial audio as a small extra. I would have scored them a little bit higher if the EQ customization worked a bit better. But now onto category 7, noise cancelling. And how I test my noise cancelling, I chuck on my soundbar nice and loud and play simulation plain noise and crowd noise, so I get low, middle, high consistent as well as inconsistent sounds. And here's the scoring for the plain noise test and the crowd noise test. Total score is the average, rounded up to the nearest half. So they're getting a score of 7 out of 10 overall. I do need to point out that the light clamping force does negatively affect the noise cancelling. If it was tighter, you will get a better seal with the ear cups, and with that, stronger noise cancelling. Which I did in my testing. I just kind of pushed the ear cups a little bit tighter on my ears and the noise cancelling was improved. But you do get 3 modes, which will change the strength of the noise cancelling, and you also have a 10 level slider in there. There is no automatic wind reduction here, so if the microphones pick up wind, if you're outside on a windy day, you're going to hear it come through the microphones because it does pick it up quite easily. And a big thing to mention here is EQ shift. So this is how your sound quality changes with noise cancelling on compared to transparency compared to noise cancelling off. So if you go from noise cancelling on to either noise cancelling off or transparency, you basically lose about 40% of your bass. I'd say it's kind of similar to like a pair of 2.1 bookshelf speakers where you have 2 bookshelf speakers and a sub, and you turn the sub off, that's kind of the sound difference that you're getting. So I'm normally looking for no more than like 10-15% of EQ shift. So if you only use noise cancelling, this is not going to be an issue. At least with noise cancelling on, they sound the best. probably going to be why you're buying a noise cancelling headphone. But if you want to hear your surroundings, you turn transparency mode on, you're going to lose most of your bass and you'll have to change the EQ, which is just not very convenient. I'm not sure if this is something that can be fixed with firmware, but if it is fixed with firmware, I'll leave a comment down below. Now onto category 8, the transparency mode. Now headphones not known for the best transparency modes, but the Baseus M30 here has some very impressive clarity. Actually the best clarity on this ranking. So hearing voices, having a conversation with someone, even in a pretty noisy environment, it's going to be completely fine. You can hear sounds in the distance quite well. It's definitely not the most natural transparency. It has a very slight amplified effect. The treble is slightly brighter than what I would naturally hear, but you can hear things well. With a lot of headphones, you normally can't. And with this clarity, you also get a very minimal amount of occlusion. So when you speak yourself, your own voice sounds very natural. You don't really get like a blocked ear effect. The only issue with this decent clarity is that it comes with a decent amount of white noise hiss. It kind of sounds like a fan is on in the distance, almost like it's raining lightly outside. Only noticeable with no noise around you. Even with a moderate amount of noise, you might notice it, but if you're in a noisy environment, you probably won't notice it. So with this white noise, I am going to bring the score down to an 8.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for the white noise, it'd be 9 or even higher, because the clarity is actually better than the QC-YH3, but they have much less white noise hiss. All right, category 9 is sound extras. This includes sound leakage, volume, and wide listening. Starting with sound leakage, I have a pretty rough testing system here. I just measure the headphones at the same decibels, chuck them on a box, and just hear how much sound is leaked. So overall, these leak the least amount of sound, on par with the Earphone Wave Pro. So even if you're cranking these headphones at about 70% volume, the person sitting next to you is barely going to hear any sound come out. Now, my max volume test, I got just under 96 decibels. Keep in mind, this is tested without a seal, so it's not the true decibels that you're going to be hearing with a seal on like an ear. But basically, these go incredibly loud. I couldn't even go close to 100% volume. It was just very uncomfortable. And I'm not going to lose my hearing just for a test. One thing to keep in mind though, if you like to boost your EQ when it comes to bass, or use the bass boost preset, when you get to 75% volume and up, you aren't going to retain the same bass you had at those lower volumes. But with the stock EQ, you retain basically all the bass to 100%. And finally, when it comes to wired listening, like I mentioned before, you can do so with the headphones powered on or powered off. So when they're powered on, you're going to get the best sound quality, even better because you're using them wired. Powered off, it's a bit of a flat sound. You lose quite a bit of bass, actually kind of similar to what the headphones sound like with that EQ shift I talked about. But it's great to have the option. A lot of the headphones don't give it the option. And with the headphones powered on, listening wired, you can control the volume of the headphones separate to your phone as well. Not really beneficial, but you can do it. Anyway, solid stuff. They're getting a score of 9.5 out of 10. But now onto the final round, sound quality. And as I do with all the headphones on this ranking, my explanation and scoring is how the headphones sound with noise cancelling on, because you're probably going to use noise cancelling most of the time. And overall, these are close to being the best sounding headphone on this ranking. So you're getting a full bass response here that still has some nice balance to it. So you get a bit of deep sub bass rumble and a full mid bass response that's pushed to the point of not being muddy or boomy. But you get a rich experience across all the lower frequencies. The mids here are interesting though, so you get nice clear male and female vocals. Very nice instrument separation. I really noticed distorted guitar stood out very nicely, kind of combined with that mid bass, just sounds very realistic and full. My only complaint is that more aggressive male vocals, whether it be screaming or rock vocals, it did get very slightly shouty. I'm kind of nitpicking here, but that's the only real flaw I found with the sound of these headphones. But the treble response here is nice and crisp. You get a bit of that upper treble sparkle, not too over the top though, so things rarely get harsh or sibilant. So combine everything here, you're getting a very dynamic sound, but with very impressive instrument separation. And the soundstage is on the more open side, just behind the Soundcore Q45, which has the widest soundstage. So I'm scoring them at 8.5 out of 10. Compared to the other headphones that have a score of 8.5, I do prefer the sound of the Baseus 30 Max. It's just that slightly shouty mid-range that didn't let them kind of get to that 9 out of 10 score. And I would have scored them a 9 if you could fix it in the EQ, but you can't really, because the 8-band EQ just makes the headphones sound very strange and you can't really get them sounding close to the presets that they have. But the presets that they do include are very decent. The hi-fi one brings it down to a more balanced level. The pop EQ opens up the soundstage and boosts the mids as well, but doesn't push those shouty mids any further. The rock preset actually brings those shouty mids down to a suitable level, but then it increases the mid bass a little bit and they become slightly on the boomy side. So compared to the Edify 830 and Earphone Wave Pro, they both bring you a better stock balance tuning, with instrument separation being the standouts. But I have to say the Baseus 30 Max here has similar instrument separation, but gives you a bit more of a dynamic tuning at the same time. So if you don't mind using an external EQ like Wavelet, this can easily be fixed. Now, if you are a bit of a bass head, you do have that bass boost EQ preset, which is mainly going to boost mid bass. It doesn't boost the sub bass too much. And like I said before, when you start going past 70% volume, you're going to lose most of that bass, and that will sound basically the same as the stock EQ when it comes to bass. So if you're a volume junkie and you want crazy bass at loud volumes, these aren't going to be for you. And finally, there's a spatial audio that has head tracking. So like you can move your head to the left and right and the audio will kind of stay in the middle. Does anyone actually use this? Let me know. But the actual spatial audio itself isn't too bad. It does open up the soundstage a bit. I wouldn't really call it like a proper spatial audio effect where it will kind of push the sound in front of you and sound like it's coming from speakers. All it really does is the slightly wider soundstage, but at the same time, it does make the treble quite harsh, a little bit too harsh when it comes to listening to music. Even when watching movies, I did find at times things were just a little bit sibilant and harsh. So it's not too bad. Play around with it. You might like it. But that wraps up all 10 categories. And before we go into the final score, here's how you can customize the scoring with my free spreadsheet, link below. So on there you get notes for each score, specifications tab, and a call quality tab. To personalize the scoring, just fill out a number in the importance column. That'll change the entire score for all the headphones, and you're gonna get a new custom ranking in order of highest to lowest. But now the final scores are in, and the Baseus 30 Max finished with 83.5 out of 100. So now the top 5 headphones are all pretty much similarly priced with a similar score. So before you think about grabbing these, I need to mention the main drawbacks. The light clamping force is a pretty big one. The massive EQ shift, and you're not getting a hard case or a soft case included. If those drawbacks aren't an issue, these are a very solid pair. They're definitely worth it at their price, and you're getting some very impressive sound. But to see how Baseus performs in the true wireless earbud market, be sure to check out my video here where I compared the best earbuds under $50 US. And the Baseus MA10 performed very well, so be sure to check that out. Thanks a lot for tuning in, stay picky, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.